I'm the Reverend Amanda Pappy. I have served here since August 2020, and already this congregation does feel as though it is a home for me and for my family. I think even people who are getting to know us virtually can get the sense of what a warm and welcoming community UUCA is. There's a particular heart for being with each other and for connecting with each other. We have found a way as a congregation, and every person who's been involved, every member who's shown up for a Zoom call or who's watched worship on Facebook, have found ways to continue to be the church together, to be a community with each other. I haven't been able to be in person with the majority of the folks that I serve. It feels like missing something I haven't even had yet. I think a lot of folks are feeling that sense of missing the way we are able to be together usually, and beginning to imagine, as the vaccines roll out, as the rates go down, as we look forward, that we will be able to come home. I love the theme of coming home for our annual campaign. When I think about how much more beautiful it will be when we're able to be in person together again, that fills me with joy and a lot of hope for what it is that we're going to be building together in the future. When I think about the pandemic, I think a lot about how we're going through it all together, and at the same time, we are experiencing it in really different ways. Maybe we are financially strapped this year. Maybe we are lonely this year. We want to make sure we build a congregation that's strong enough to be able to support us no matter what we've been through this past year, no matter what we go through in the years to come, that the congregation can support all of us. That means that some of us who are able to give more, so that those of us who aren't able to give more can be part of that really vibrant community, so that we create a congregation strong enough for all of us to be there and to be able to fulfill our mission in the world.
Okay, here I am, so excited to be in the UUCA kitchen, the new stove, and talking about why I pledged to UUCA, which basically, it just dates back to 25 years ago when I first walked into this building, and I thought, this is my place, this is my home, I've got to support it, and that's why I pledged then, and I continue to pledge every year. So to keep this home alive, to keep the home fires burning, basically. That's it.
We are Alan.
And Gerda, key sweater.
We started coming home to UUCA over 30 years ago when we returned from a long stint in the Middle East. And we have been coming home to this church ever since.
And why do we love and support UUCA? Community, friendships, a sense of belonging, a way to process our lives thoughtfully, to help others find their way through covenant groups, RE, social justice work.
Soon we hope to come home in person to celebrate the beauty of our spaces and to nurture the beloved community that we share.
Hi, this is Henry,
Hi, this is my mom.
and we just wanted to tell you that we really miss UUCA. I used to be a greeter, and I really enjoyed being at the front door and watching people come in and getting them to relax and be ready for the service. So I'm really looking forward to doing that again when we get back to normal.
I think the main thing that I miss about UCA is youth group and like this, all the social settings that came with that, and then also especially some of the overnights that we would do. I remember those were really fun, and I was really looking forward to having more of those when the pandemic hit.
Well, I'm really happy that you've been able to do youth group on Zoom, so I think that's been really positive.
Yeah.
And hopefully we all get our shot soon and we are back in business. Cool.
Hello, my name is Bill Fogarty, and to answer a question about what I love about UUCA, I would say it's the fact that this is a multi-generational, lifelong community. I've been able to connect with people of all ages in the church community, and I know it's a community that's going to be here for me through all the phases of my life. In a word or two, I guess I would say I love the people. I love the connections I can make, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to be a part of this community.
Hi. The budding of the trees in my neighborhood is a perfect metaphor for how I'll feel as we begin the process of returning to our beloved church campus, filled with anticipation and ready to burst. I'm looking forward to the time when I can see church friends, old and new, in 3 dimensions instead of just 2. I'm looking forward to viewing the green trees and sunlight through the large windows in the sanctuary as music is played and voices can once again rise in song. I can hardly wait.
I'm the Reverend Amanda Pappy. I have served here since August 2020, and already this congregation does feel as though it is a home for me and for my family. I think even people who are getting to know us virtually can get the sense of what a warm and welcoming community UUCA is. There's a particular heart for being with each other and for connecting with each other. We have found a way as a congregation, and every person who's been involved, every member who's shown up for a Zoom call or who's watched worship on Facebook, have found ways to continue to be the church together, to be a community with each other. I haven't been able to be in person with the majority of the folks that I serve. It feels like missing something I haven't even had yet. I think a lot of folks are feeling that sense of missing the way we are able to be together usually, and beginning to imagine as the vaccines roll out, as the rates go down, as we look forward, that we will be able to come home. I love the theme of coming home for our annual campaign. When I think about how much more beautiful it will be when we're able to be in person together again, that fills me with joy and a lot of hope for what it is that we're going to be building together in the future. When I think about the pandemic, I think a lot about how we're going through it all together, and at the same time, we are experiencing it in really different ways. Maybe we are financially strapped this year. Maybe we are lonely this year. We want to make sure we build a congregation that's strong enough to be able to support us no matter what we've been through this past year, no matter what we go through in the years to come, that the congregation can support all of us. That means that some of us who are able to give more, so that those of us who aren't able to give more can be part of that really vibrant community, so that we create a congregation strong enough for all of us to be there and to be able to fulfill our mission in the world.
Okay, here I am, so excited to be in the UUCA kitchen, the new stove, and talking about why I pledged to UUCA, which basically, I mean, it just dates back to 25 years ago when I first walked into this building, and I thought, this is my place, this is my home, I've got to support it, and that's why I pledged then, and I continue to pledge every year. So to keep this home alive, to keep the home fires burning, basically. That's it.
We are Alan
And Gerda, key sweater.
We started coming home to UUCA over 30 years ago when we returned from a long stint in the Middle East, and we have been coming home to this church ever since.
And why do we love and support UUCA? Community, friendships, a sense of belonging, a way to process our lives thoughtfully, to help others find their way through covenant groups, RE, social justice work.
Soon we hope to come home in person to celebrate the beauty of our spaces and to nurture the beloved community that we share.
Hi UUCA friends. We are getting ready for our visiting home event on April 10th, hoping for good weather and hoping that you may have by then found some of the, let's see if I can get it in the background, some of the chalices hung around, our secret chalices hung all around our campus. We hope that you'll join us on April 10th for our event. There's a sign up to be able to come visit the playground. We're looking both for folks who want to be on the playground to play and for playground monitors. So especially if you're an RE teacher, please do sign up to help monitor the playground. There are also still sign-ups available to have a visit into the sanctuary, to perhaps take a stone and write on there, to light a candle, to listen to Sophia play, to be with a member of the ministerial team and just get to visit our beautiful sanctuary. It'll be such a joy to see each other inside, where we'll be very fully masked, of course, and out. You'll also be able to pick up a special UUCA Loves You sign. Let's see if we can go check one of those out as well. A special UUCA Loves You sign when you drop off your pledge card. Here's one right in Marianne's office. There we go. So we hope that you'll come by on the 10th, that you'll sign up and volunteer to help staff the playground so that our families can visit, that you'll drop off your pledge materials if you haven't already, that you'll drop off your stuffed animals for a special sleepover starting on the 10th. They can stay a little longer than the rest of us. Stop by for a photo with Howley Houdini, visit the sanctuary and engage in a ritual and just be together. We will be super safe, distant and masked, and happy to be together.
Good morning. My name is Irv Lacho. I'm a member of the UUCA board, and it's my deep pleasure to welcome you to this special Easter Sunday service. Whether this is your first time with us or whether you're a longtime member, we're so happy that you could join us this morning. Our theme this Sunday is rebirth or renewal. And I wanted to welcome you by sharing my experiences with rebirth and renewal this last week. And in particular, in noting that every morning brings a new day. And that seems very trite in some ways, but it's also a very powerful observation. And it's really come to light for me in the last couple of weeks because I've had the experience of having a lot of late night work-related emails and phone calls, as many of you probably have, because many people are on meetings, video calls all day, and they get to their emails in the evening. And as a result, there are often these emergencies that will hit at 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and there are emails flying around, and people are really upset, or there's some big issue that needs to be addressed, and it can be easy to get wrapped up in that and get pretty stressed out and upset. And one of the things that I have found is that when I wake up the next morning, whatever the big emergency was doesn't seem like that big a deal. People can deal with each other in a fairly calm manner, and things get resolved, and all is good in the world. There's something about waking up in the morning and just having a new day and a chance to start over, and the possibilities that are there before us, and things get resolved. And so I just think there's this power of waking up to a new morning and seeing what's possible and letting go of whatever the upsets were that were there the day before, and just starting over. So I hope that this morning brings you a day full of wonderful possibilities, and I hope it's a wonderful day for all of you.
Our call to worship this morning comes from the poet Langston Hughes, In Time of Silver Rain. In time of silver rain, the earth puts forth new life again. Green grasses grow and flowers lift their heads, and over all the plain the wonder spreads of life, of life, of life. In time of silver rain, the butterflies lift silken wings to catch a rainbow cry, and trees put forth new leaves to sing in joy beneath the sky. As down the roadway, passing boys and girls go singing too. In time of silver rain, when spring and life are new. In time of silver rain. This day, this Easter celebration, this moment within the observance of Passover, this day made holy in so many ways, most especially by our gathering together. This day, when life, when spring, when all is new. This day, let us worship together.
I am so glad this morning to have Callan with me to help light our chalice. So Callan, I wondered if while I light, you might be able to share some chalice lighting words.
I'm pretty sure I can do that.
All right, I'm ready.
We are the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Open Mind, Loving Heart, and Helping Hand, and Radiant Spirit.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. You know, Callan, before you go, all this month, people at UUCA are talking about what they love about the church and what they miss about being together at the church. And I wonder if there's anything that you would like to add about what you particularly love and are looking forward to getting back to someday.
I love the cooking competitions.
What do you cook?
I like the baking competitions and the chili competition the most.
That sounds delicious. And have you
like making and tasting all of the what's the word? All of the dishes.
All of the dishes. That sounds amazing. Well, Callan, I can't wait until we are back in the building and we can make and taste lots of dishes together. And I am so appreciative that you lit our chalice for us this morning, that you shared the words for our chalice lighting. Thank you.
Good morning, friends. I would like to start us off this Sunday morning with the story, Turtle Spring. I think you'll like this story, and we're going to have different members of the ministry team tell you different parts of the story throughout the service. But I would like to start Turtle Spring by Deborah, Terney, Zaglin. For Clee, it was a summer of hellos and goodbyes. Clee's relatives came, Cleve's relatives went, but her new red-faced baby brother stayed for good. "Aren't you the lucky one?" everyone insisted from orbits around the crib. Clee felt like a lost moon. One visitor, Uncle Fish Tank Hal, knew all about lost moons. Clee's family called him Fish Tank because he lived on a barge with aquariums for windows. "I brought you something, Clee," he boomed. "She's spongy to my back, and she ain't happy about the trip." Then Fish Tank Hal whispered in Clee's ear, "She's a rebel. No cause. Jumped a tank one too many time. She ain't a gift for a baby. She's too big, but I only pinch it." Clee knew the feeling. It was late summer when Clee's father said goodbye. Uncle Fish Tank Hal was ferrying him to an island off the coast. "It's a big job," Clee's father told her ruefully. "I won't be finished for months." September was quiet, without the sound of Clee's father whistling in the garden. There were no hammering on the porch or firewood thumping in the woodshed sounds. The apples ripened without him. In the sandbox, Clee's turtle sunned herself. She looked contented, having just gobbled up 3 worms. Her split pea eyes were smiley slits. I keep thinking about what it must be like for Clee as that older sibling. I know that becoming an older sibling can be a scary process. Listening to my wife talk about it with all of her years of child education and watching my daughter have to go through it. It's a time where you know that something big is happening to your life. You know that things are going to change for you in your house, in your life. All of the routines that you know that you've just gotten comfortable with in your young life, they're all going to be gone, and you have no idea what to expect in their place. And when you're a small person dealing with all of these things, that can lead to resentment. And the oldest sibling starting to wish that maybe things could go back to the way they were before that squalling, crying baby. How often have we heard that sentiment over the past year? Can't things just go back to the way they were? I remember last March thinking to myself that this thing will probably be over with by September and life will return to normal. It's going to be a summer of staycations and working on home projects. Toilet paper would stop being scarce in a few weeks, and all of those difficult social distancing protocols that we were all enacting, they would pay off in the fall. Summer came and went, and COVID felt like that new baby. It was a huge disruption in our lives, and we were just starting to settle in with the idea that it wasn't going away anytime soon. And we needed to learn to live with it. One of the things I've noticed about humans is they can be really adaptable creatures. We figure out how to survive when the environment gets hostile. Think of the extremes that happen in the north that the Inuit people can endure, and the extremes that happen around the equator and the indigenous people who live there. We do a lot of adapting when things get rough. And over the last year, we've done a lot of emotional adaptation and evolution. Some people a year ago who were more than happy to never have to touch a computer in their life and never have to learn anything more than how to check the barest of emails are now Zoom experts. We found ways over the last year to maintain human connection. We found ways of seeking it out instead of just letting it happen to us like we used to do. Over the last year, we've done things like seek out old friends to reestablish connections with them with more intention. We've gone into deeper levels of connection with the family members within our house and with those who are far away to check in on them during these trying times. We are more aware now how the systems of this country separate and marginalize each other. This last year has been a year of realizing how important connection was because it was so rare. This was a year where we decided we were going to be intentional and connect with everyone. We participated in food drives, in racial justice marches, and neighborhood check-ins, making sure our neighbors were safe. Over the last year, we have evolved to live in a COVID community, seeking connection and really digging deep into it. But what happens next? What does the future look like for those of us who have learned to adapt to this COVID community? Like that sibling that Clea is going to have to learn to live with, COVID is going to change from what it initially was. More vaccines are going to be distributed and getting a wider section of the population inoculated, but that doesn't mean COVID will be gone. Those with immune-compromised systems will still be vulnerable. And while we may be able to gather in small groups in the near future, we're still going to have safety protocols in place. Masks, social distancing. This new baby of COVID growing into the toddler is going to be the less needy version of it. But it's going to still need attention. The future doesn't look like our past. The future doesn't look like the last year of COVID. But nor does it look like what it was 2 or 3 years ago before COVID. The future is not going to be either of those things, no matter how much we want it to be. And in some ways it's sad, because life before was familiar and comfortable, but we're incredibly adaptive creatures, my friends. We have found things over the past year that are absolute treasures, like a gift from a crusty old uncle. We find things to hold on to while we are adapting, and those things are important to us. They help us stay grounded. They help us move forward. I hope that you have found something over this past year that you are willing and wishing to take forward with you into the next unknown. I hope it keeps you grounded.
The autumn sun lasted until mid-October, and then the wind blew it away. Sometimes Clee worried that the turtle had escaped, but then she would find her under a roof of leaves having a nap. "You should consider bringing her in at night," Clee's mother advised. "It's getting colder, too cold for a southern breed of turtle." In November, the house was full of baby. "Afternoon's his crabby time, Clee." Her mother's braid stuck out over one ear. One morning, Clee dreamed that she had forgotten something. The feeling tugged her awake and pulled her outside to the sandbox. The ground was crunchy under Clee's feet, and the sand was hard and cold to the touch. Her turtle was missing. The shabby leaves offered no shelter now. "Why didn't I take her inside? Why didn't I take her inside?" Clee's teeth chattered. Clee examined the frost at her feet. No clues. No turtle. Looking closer, she noticed traces of scrambling and clawing in one corner. There, brittle leaves and sticks had formed a frozen ramp. Her turtle had escaped over this and under the garden fence. The tracks in the frost ended at the compost pile. And that is where Clee found her. Beneath a layer of grass clippings and rotting leaves, in an effort to stay warm, the turtle had pulled her feet and head into the heart of her shell. Now She was stone still, stone cold. Later, Clee told her mother about burying the turtle in the compost heap. I made the hole deep so the coyotes wouldn't dig it up. Her mother held her close and smoothed her hair. Sometimes, even carrying a house on your back can't keep you safe when you're a southern breed of turtle, Clee's mother said gently. The northern seasons slip one into the other, and weather can bring both good and bad surprises. It was a hard winter, wasn't it? I find that as I move out of one season and into the next, whether that is a literal season or a metaphorical one, I need to take some time to reflect on the season that has just passed. I invite you to think about the winter we have just moved through. In some ways, it feels impossible to even try to remember, but perhaps you remember Valentine's Day, Inauguration Day, New Year's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving. Perhaps you remember a snow day or another memorable day over those cold months. I invite you to take a breath as those memories swirl around you. Breathe in. And then breathe out and let them go. Breathe in and hold the precious pieces of those memories close. And then breathe out and let the rest of them go. The seasons slip one into the other, and it helps to know what we carry with us from the season before. As our Jewish siblings and we with Jewish heritage conclude the celebration of Passover, we remember the suffering the Jews endured, traveling out of Egypt, then faced with plagues. Every year, this story is told so that that season is remembered. Every year, those difficult memories are drawn close to remember, and to remember the feelings of resilience. We remember the difficult season, and we remember the ways we overcame it. I invite you to breathe in, remembering the hard times we have just gone through, and breathe out, holding close the resilience that will move you through all of the hard seasons.
December brought bitter weather. Clee's father's voice crackled over the radio telephone. Work's dragging on. Wind's fierce. I'm marooned. The receiver spat out. A pile of snow grew between the garden sandbox and the compost. Clee imagined her turtle curled up and frozen beneath it. The storms continued. The house grew a shell of snow. There has never been a winter, gloated the radio weatherman, like this one. Inside the house, only her brother was lively, rolling, sitting, crawling, sucking on everything in sight. He liked the warm kitchen the best. In January, the sun dawned bright and cold. Clee scratched patterns in the window frost for her brother. She showed him how to breathe. Breathe a hole in the lacy patterns. Outside, everything was paper white. Winter games were written with snow boots and mittens on a pad of snow. Snow angels, snow forts, snow trails, snowballs, snowmen. Clee sat her little brother in a baking pan and twirled him till he was silly, giggling, dizzy. Beyond the snowbank was the sandbox and the garden compost. Clee never made a trail for her brother in that direction. In late February, the snow changed. It became gritty. Old snow, sighed Clee's mother. Sugar snow, wrote Clee's father. Over and over it melted and refroze into an icy crust. In early March, Clee could walk on it. Sometimes flakes of snow still fell, but the afternoon sun just winked them away. And then the winds blew lukewarm and playful from the south. Spring melt, sang Clee's mother. Job's done, wrote Clee's father. Be home soon. Be home soon, he said. We'll be home soon too, we of UUCA. We'll soon be able to be together in less than a week, at least in a limited way. But it's been a tough winter, a hard year, and we're coming slowly and tentatively into spring. We have felt stuck, limited, barricaded. We've worried about infection, about money, about school, about vaccinations. We've slept more or less. Sometimes it has felt as if we haven't slept at all. We have felt exhausted or keyed up, depressed or weirdly energetic, frustrated. We have lost some people we loved. And we've been missing just about everybody, even though they're here somewhere. Maybe we've had some fun too. I know I have. And I hope you have. At our house, we've started doing jigsaw puzzles. And we've been playing card games and board games that we had not played in a very long time. We play more music. We bake more cookies. We watch a little more TV. And we try to have fun parties on Zoom. We've gone on long walks and talked to friends. We've had bonfires in the backyard. What have you done? I hope you've had some fun. Be proud of yourself, everybody, for making it this far. I hope you're grateful for your family and your close friends, for your colleagues, your teachers, for your UUCA community. I know that I am grateful to you, my church family. And here we are. Times are changing. We never can be sure what happens next or next after that. Tough times may come again. In fact, they will come again, but not these exact tough times. And right now, it's time to focus on opening our hearts to hope. Be hopeful with the increasing sunshine, with the singing of the birds, the blooming of the flowers, with the love that is still here. Be grateful for the long winter being just about over. Be grateful that we have made it this far.
By early April, the big snowbanks were disappearing. The garden emerged shabby and moist. In the mornings, steam from the compost heap wafted over the sandbox. Like it was cooking, Clee thought sourly. A week later, Clee noticed the flowers in the corners of her sandbox. Crocuses and snowdrops, her mother smiled. Messengers of spring. Clee carried her squirming brother onto the porch for a closer look. The sharp, sweet smell of old and new growth drew them to the garden's edge. Clee set him down in a corner of the sandbox. Yes, there were flowers growing out of the sand, and green-tipped grass shoots, too. Clee squatted next to her brother and tried not to look at the compost pile. But she could see it out of the corner of her eye, and worse than that, little gusts of wind were lifting the leaves. There was movement. Clee bit her lip to stop the tears. Clee's little brother saw it first. A patchwork creature was inching its way down the compost slope. The boy fell back into the wet sand, laughing. He was thrilled to have found a creature who crawled slower than he did. As for Clee, she could not believe her eyes. Her turtle was very much alive and always had been. It was heading towards the sandbox with a sure-footed stubbornness that Uncle Fish Tank Hal knew well. A rebel with no cause, jumped tank one time too many. The northern seasons had slipped one into the other, but her southern breed of turtle had its own calendar, knowing when to tunnel and sleep and when to wake up. It was the best surprise. Kee! Her little brother chuckled and poured sand down her boot. Thank you so much for the music that has woven through our service this morning. Free Spirits, Devin, and of course Sophia for bringing that music to us. I first heard the Turtle Spring story that we shared today a long time ago. It's one of those stories that stayed in the back of my memory and imagination, popping up now and then. And this year, as we prepared for this service and thought about how we might tell a story of new possibility, it came up for me again. I'm grateful to Reverend Walter and Diane and Laura for helping to tell this story, for bringing us through the seasons just the way Clee and her family moved through the seasons. Maybe the way her turtle moved through the seasons too. We have had a turtle kind of winter, a turtle kind of year. We have kind of moved down into ourselves, masked up just like a turtle in its shell, keeping ourselves safe and keeping each other safe. And now maybe, just maybe, it is time for us to poke our heads, still masked and careful, out of our shells. Maybe, just maybe, flowers are blooming and grass is growing, just like it was for Clee. Clee's story has themes in it that make me think of this day, of Easter. The Christian observance and celebration of Easter is one of new life, of hope, of resurrection, of possibility. Those of us who identify as Christian or hold the Christian story deep in our heart, and our Christian siblings all around the globe, are proclaiming today that even when all hope feels lost, still life may emerge. Hope is always present. Years ago, I heard a preacher say, though I think the quote may belong to John Lennon of the Beatles, everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. I hang on to that quote sometimes. I did this past winter and whole past year. And yet, it's not always okay. Sometimes people say that Unitarian Universalists like to go straight to Easter and to forget about Good Friday, about the day that in the story we tell Jesus died, the day when it did feel all hope was lost, before the proclamation of Easter and hope returned. It is important, like Clee, to notice when we are sad, to name the losses we have held, even as we begin to poke out of the sandbox and into the wide world, into all the flowers before us. Last month, I heard my colleague Matt Riddle, pastor at Church of the Brethren in Arlington, share a reflection about the last year. He talked about springtime and how so much life begins in spring. So much is blooming, so much is born. The robins pecking at the ground, the flowers, the trees, the pollen, all the life that we see around us. And then he told about a friend who had taught him another true thing, that a lot of life dies in the spring too. That for all the flowers that bloom and blossom, there are flowers that don't make it. Spring holds the allness of life, the hope and beauty and possibility, and also the sadnesses that we still carry. And yet, Pastor Matt reminded us to look for the new life, to look for the hope around us. He invited us to feel this, to let the renewal of this season wash over us. He said, become the current of water breaking through the dry ground within our souls, a bubbling spring of renewal within us, washing over us until our souls are drenched with hope, until we drown in new life. I needed to hear those words from my friend and colleague. We need to hear those words from each other. On days when we are full of flowers and beauty and hope, and on days when we worry that it won't be okay in the end. On days when we worry we are still in the midst of winter. We can be each other's reminder that the source of renewal and new life can bubble up inside any one of us at any time, that we can be each other's sources of renewal and hope. The laughter that we share over Zoom, the first hug after vaccination, the first time we see our grandparents in maybe a long time, a return to school even when it isn't like it was before, a remembering that spring is beautiful, that summer is on its way, that we are all getting ready to come home one day to each other. On this day of hope and possibility, of new life and renewal, may you find renewal in you. May you bring new hope to someone else. May we together imagine the possibility that the smallest flower seed, the quietest turtle, the hardest winter holds deep inside. May it be so.
Now and every day until April 24th, 70% of the offering taken will be given to Alive, a multi-denominational organization responding to poverty all over the city of Alexandria. UUCA has been a 30-year partner with Alive, and your donation today will help provide food and prevent evictions from those who have lost their jobs over the past year. There are many ways to pledge to help out Alive. You can donate through our website, by text, or the Give Plus app. And you're always welcome to write a check to UUCA. Just make sure to put plate in the memo line. Know that 70% of your donation goes directly to people in need. So I ask that you factor that in when making your donations this week, and maybe add a little something extra to help them out. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others. Blessed be.
Hi, this is Jim and Nancy Schroll. We've been asked to share with you why we pledge to the church, why the church is important to us. For me, it's just important to take care of what is so meaningful to so many people, especially on Sunday morning when we're all together, but also every night of the week when there's so many activities going on. It's a great thing to be there on a weeknight. It's also great just to drive by the church on a weeknight and see that the parking lot is packed with people doing so many different activities. So for me, it's all about making sure we do our part. People that came before us were good stewards of the church and turned it over to us. And I think it's important for us to step up and do our part and make sure the church thrives now and into the future.
On Sunday mornings, I'm often found at the front desk welcoming visitors and newcomers as they come through our doors, or going to the welcome room down the hall from the sanctuary where we can talk with these same folks about our religion and about our church community. These newcomers are looking for a liberal religious community, and they're so excited that they have found it here at UUCA. This is one of the reasons that Jim and I decide to pledge what we consider to be a generous amount to UUCA so that these doors can always be open and here for those seeking what we can provide. Thank you.
Hi, Frank Kendall here. I've only been a member of the church in Virginia for a Unitarian Universalist for a couple of years now. But I joined because I share so much the values of the church, and it's really been rewarding and fulfilling for me to be associated with a bunch of people who feel the same way I do about those things. I do pledge every year, and I pledge because I've been a member of a number of nonprofit boards, and I know how important it is to have reasonable resource planning capability so that you can decide what kind of programs you want to put on, as well as just meet your basic needs. Pledging allows the people who are trying to plan for the church to look ahead and initiate things that they might not be able to do otherwise, as well as have some reasonable certainty about how much income they're going to have come in. So it's incredibly valuable to the institution from that perspective. Allows you to go forward with a reasonable set of confidence. So I would encourage everybody to participate in that if they could possibly do so.
So, what does UUCA mean to me? Well, it's my second home, really. And also to my family, because my kids, when they come home, they say, we're going to go talk to Dad. And that means they go to the memorial garden where we have my husband's name engraved. His ashes aren't there. And we have his grandmother's iris, but they go talk to Dad. So for me, it's decades and decades of coming here and knowing every nook and cranny of the building and knowing so many of you. It's also the family that really helped my children during my husband's illness, their father's illness and death, because it was the youth group where they could be themselves. And I credit youth group with them becoming really neat adults. And that's why I pledge. It's so important that other youth have a place they can call home.
Just as I was pleased to have Callan with us for our chalice lighting, I am so glad to have Andy join us for our benediction this morning. Andy, before you share that, I wonder if you would like to let us know if there's anything that you're looking forward to coming home to at UUCA when we can do that.
I think the thing that I'm looking forward to most is just interacting with more people and meeting new people and helping out in my community as much as I can with those people, because I've missed doing that and missed interacting. So.
Oh, me too. That sounds wonderful. Well, Andy has indeed a benediction for us from the wild and wonderful poet Emily Dickinson. Andy?
The dandelion's pallid tube astonishes the grass, and winter instantly becomes an infinite alas. The tube uplifts a signal bud, and then a shouting flower, the proclamation of the suns that sepulture is o'er.
May we all find a signal bud and a shouting flower in our lives this week and in the months to come. Andy, thank you. Everyone, be well.